Preaching is an interesting thing, you know. Obviously, the person has connected with something within themselves, or, I mean, I know a lot of people preach the Gospels or some sort of book. Um, and I know it's for some people. Some people like to hear that. It's almost like having ideas and words thrown at you, isn't it? Preaching. But I don't preach with the intention of telling people what to do. But I guess you could say it's closely connected. The part about, having connected with something, having found something that I like to share. And I guess that's the similarity. And it's not that I like to share it, even though I do, but that's not why I do it. Um, it seems to be very beneficial for people so far, talking to people about certain things so far, as in all cases, especially recently. So when I say that, over the last probably 5 years of my life, everybody I talk to, they seem to find benefit from the conversation. So it's almost like I'm being asked to do it. It really depends on the capacity or the level of awareness or insight of the person or the preacher and those being preached to. Some people, it really helps them, doesn't it, listening to a preacher? But from my observation, I think a lot of preachers do their thinking for the audience, and it's almost like the audience is expected to follow the preacher, to hear their word, take it as truth. And obviously there's going to be exceptions. Some preachers will inspire inquiry and questioning, I think, in their audience. But it's just very easy for people to kind of fall into following someone, instead of seeking themselves, trying to penetrate the truth of the situation for themselves. But of course, if I took a person off of the streets and that person, their life was kind of falling apart and they didn't know what to do about it and they were in deep misery, and if you leave them alone in their own misery, it's just going to get worse or stay the same. It's not going to change. And then if you compared that to that person following a preacher who was going to tell them what to do, if that preacher has a good message, I think I would probably encourage that person to go to the preacher. If they're not prepared to really do the work themselves and delve into it themselves, I think I would encourage that person to go towards the preacher for the benefit of their life. So, it does obviously resonate with some people. I suppose you have to get to the root of the intention behind it and the reality behind it, because it's possible to preach anything, isn't it, ultimately? So to get to the core of what is the fundamental message, if you want to call it that. Also, to assume that you know something that people want or people need to hear is, well, I'd say at the very least you'd have to be questionable about, you'd have to question that assumption. What makes you think people need to hear what you have to say? Are people asking you to speak? Are people inquiring into you and your message? At which point, I wouldn't use the definition of preaching at that point. It would be more answering questions, potentially guiding people or responding to people. Whereas I know there's an element of preaching whereby people just blatantly start shouting and verbalizing their opinions and views, or their, as you said, whatever it is they've found, they just kind of start preaching it to the world. So I think you have to assume that people want to hear your message, which I definitely don't do. I know, in fact, a lot of people don't resonate very well with me and the types of things that I discuss. Sure, I suppose if you can watch them long enough, if you can see them clearly, and yeah, there's nothing wrong with that, is there? Put a magnifying glass on them, so to speak, watch them intensely, and gain insight into their character, I suppose, or their actions, their message, and see how it resonates with you.